I hope that signal is coming into you by 5, clear as a day. Whistle. Once upon a time, there was an expression. I've seen it on the TV. I've seen it on the telly. I saw it on television. Yeah, I saw it on television. That used to mean something to a few generations of people. Nowadays, you'll find most people use televisions to either play video games or access the internet in some other way. So really, they saw it on the internet, right? And I say I remember a time when, not to sound reminiscent, although inevitably some people will think that's what I'm doing. But I remember that it was a very significant time because, even in the era when cable television existed, and there were 57 channels with nothing on, as the old song line went. And even before that, before cable television was in every household, when it was still, in many countries, 3 channels if you were lucky, or even 2 or 1. Right? And that's what there was. Information was controlled in a much more centralized way. And there were some advantages to it, and there were some disadvantages to it. Not as many voices could be heard as easily. It was much harder to rise to the top and be one of the voices seen or heard on any of the networks. Of course, each network had effectively so much power because of their reach. Many of them thought they were, practically invincible. Well, maybe for a short period of time, they felt that way. And then along came the internet. Now, of course, the internet's been around on a technical level since the 1960s, right? During the heady days of the space program at NASA, a couple of engineers, one of whom I think it was a friend, a couple of NASA engineer type people and students at Stanford came up with the TCP/IP protocol. And so was born the internet, right? Mr. Rutkowski and Mr. Cerf. If you don't know who they are, look them up. They worked as students, they worked for a professor at Stanford. Rutkowski was also working at NASA as an aeronautical engineer. And they came up with this concept of TCP/IP that radically changed the internet. Now, what radically changed things wasn't the actual birth of TCP/IP, no. That was the beginning of the revolution of being able to relay information between 2 remotely connected computers at a great distance, not just within an office connected by a wire, right? But over a telecom system. And sure, back then telecom systems had wires and et cetera, but they were communicating over greater distances and not through a direct physical wire connection. Right? Now, why was that important? Because it gave birth to the rise of the whole internet and the transformation, which I worked on through the Interactive TV Association, or ITA, back in the mid-90s, which later became the Association for Interactive Media, and then the Association for Interactive Marketing. And what we were doing in that association that had 3 different names, but it really was always the same purpose, was to bridge that revolution from the old world of analog and even the beginnings of digital television into the new world of all digital internet media, etc. Interactive media, interactive marketing, interactive everything. And why is that important? Because the work at that time by many groups, not just the one I worked with, but by many groups, we were focused on making sure that the rollout of the technology would be adapted quickly without overburdensome regulations, rules and regulations, without overburdensome, government taxation or legislation that would stifle and maybe even quash the entire industry for at least a time. And one could say we were successful at it. If you look at the pure statistics, the adoption of the internet happened at a rate much, much faster than adoption of television, right? Or cable television even, and then television before that, and so on and so forth if you go back in time. As each new technology spreads, and as each new individual has more individual power than the previous generations, or than the people at the outbreak of the previous iteration of, the innovation of technology, the new generation has more individual power, and as such is able to adapt to the new technology quicker. And so it goes with the internet. And so it goes with content on the internet. And so it goes with all sorts of things people do on the internet. Of course, including marketing, right? Obviously. But content as well. And content is part of marketing in many ways. Not always, but certainly is, for the large part, for most people who make it, marketing is an important part of the content. Because no bucks, no Buck Rogers, right? Now, what this means is that in the rapid adoption of content over the internet, many things have changed. Just like before, some good, some not so good, some might even say bad. And part of the loss in the quality of the content is the fact that individuals don't necessarily have the necessary resources, nor the sophistication, nor frankly the measured wisdom to make actually credible, accurate, valid content. What they make instead is just whatever they can punch out the door by the time their next meal gets to them. Because that's all they have time for. Because they don't have time. And they don't have time because when you lower the barrier to entry, you essentially commoditize the value of content. Where once a picture was worth 1,000 words, now a picture is worth meh. And I say that as somebody who makes pictures and often gets paid for it. In fact, I do know the value of a picture at a commercial level in many industries. And it varies from picture to picture. But there certainly are averages. And I do know how many words it's usually worth. Because likewise, words have been commoditized even before GPT. Right? For a couple decades before GPT, the value of words And even long before that, the value of words was very commoditized with the advent of high bandwidth internet connections and work being done by all manner of people, SEOs, who have to write content constantly, copywriters, bloggers, vloggers, whatever, journalists, authors, novelists, comic book artists, you name it. With the advent of the powers of publishing, basically reducing the value of publishing in a good way, and also not in a good way. When anyone could push a button and be their own publisher, you effectively removed the status of being published. Now anyone can be published, so it's not a big deal anymore. And by that same measure, anyone can spread lies at a rate nobody could ever spread them before. They say a lie can spread around the world faster than, you can sneeze or whatever. And that the time it takes to fix a mistake that's in print or on the TV or on the screen, is far greater than the time it takes to spread the initial mistake or lie. And therefore, if you just flood the zone with lies and misinformation and disinformation, you will always be ahead of the curve, because the majority of people fall on the not highly educated side of the bell curve. Yes, the majority of people are inside the bell curve, but if you segment off who is educated about any particular topic and can tell the difference between something true and something not true at a glance, or just by a cursory read or view, versus everybody else who are basically ignorant sheep on pretty much any topic, according to the laws of distribution, well, you're always going to be able to fool at least most of the people at any time you want. And that may not sound lovely, because it's not, but it's a fact. And that's why, if you are interested in any particular topic, when people say, DYOR, do your own research, the naive people may jokingly laugh it off and say, haha, that's a meme. But the ones who get it understand, no, it's not a meme. It has become a meme to those who are maybe so in the know that to them they get the humor of the fact that it's a meme and the irony of the fact that it's a meme, and they laugh it off as a meme, but they know deep down inside that DYOR really matters. Whereas the masses don't have a clue. So to them, they laugh it off. I think it's just a meme. But it's not. DYOR matters. If you don't actually do the proper research, you're making tremendous mistakes. And it's a shame, because the information, both correct and incorrect, is available at your fingertips. And if you were to learn something factually, you could easily discern which is which and make sure you only stick to the facts in your so-called research as you learn things and gain some level of expertise. That is all for now. I wish you all well.